Good morning. Finest frog here, split 3 ways.
How's that?
Hey, bud. You and Cat been talking about going camping together now? You got video?
Yeah, we can't be going camping.
The heck of Bubba.
We hope we're gonna leave Bubba home.
Well, right now he's gonna have to.
Yeah, he ain't got to do it.
Yes, it's a continuation.
Have you got the truck yet?
It's a
He's
continuation.
gonna get it today or tomorrow. He was in the house yesterday with a folder, so I don't know what.
This whole one. Yeah. The six wheel, the toolbox, look at that.
I'm going tomorrow to get my fifth wheel, so.
Yeah, that one just got, let's take that one.
Who's gonna do it?
You're good.
I just, when I roll, I didn't see it. So you gotta go all the way up.
I think they do it today. Lines. Big cup. All the seats. What the big one.
And, what, $5,000 to it?
2,500. Which ain't nothing but.
Good morning. Let's call the meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, it's January 12th. We're here for our regular council meeting. Let's stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Here.
Mr. Pollock?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Call? Here. Mr. Keith?
Here.
Thank you. Next is our, on our agenda is a joint land use study by Ray Greer. Ray, you want to give the floor to you?
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to take a couple minutes to give you an update of where we are with the Tandem Air Force Base compatible use plan. And I came and talked to y'all back in May about the process and what we were doing with the study. Just want to remind you, the study involves 5 cities. It involves the city of Mexico Beach, city of Parker, city of Springfield, city of Callaway, the city of Panama City, and unincorporated Bay County. And what we're doing, we're conducting a compatible use plan study, analyzing the impact of the mission. And this is, pre-Hurricane Michael. Unfortunately, we started this process in 2018, was put on hold due to Hurricane Michael. And we're looking at the mission as it existed then, which was the F-22 mission. And then we're also analyzing the mission that is being proposed with the environmental impact statement, the F-35, changing the aircraft out. So we do have the different contour lines with the noise contours for the change in the planes going from the F-22 to the F-35. And then we're also analyzing the other, major mission impact that occurs off the installation is Sky 10. The Sky 10 range is their test range. That's located on the east side of Tyndall, which, naturally Mexico Beach is the closest city to that. And how that affects both the city and then how can the city affect that range and then also the flight mission. And in conducting the study, what we've done is we've analyzed, and this is basically a land use analysis. We've analyzed those 5 cities and the county, and the portion that, and it basically is a 3-mile radius around the installation. That portion that falls inside of that footprint, that mission footprint. And what we've found in doing this, we've discovered 21 areas of interest that we want to focus in on and make recommendations. And this document is now a draft. It's available to the public, and that's one thing I wanted to come. I passed out a little handout, and this is our website. It's tyndalljlus.com. And this draft is on this website. And this draft is available for public review and public comment for the next 30 days. And what I'd like to do is encourage you to go look at it and let me know if you got any questions. You can actually send questions on the website, or you can email them to me. My contact information is on this sheet, and it's also on the website. And then if you like, if you have any questions, you wanna sit down, talk to me, you're welcome to call me, and I'll be glad to come over to the city too and meet with you and talk, a little bit about the study. But, a lot of local governments wanna know, how does it impact me? Well, this study and what we've found so far is, looking at recommendations and how to reduce compatibility issues around the cities. Well, Mexico Beach, especially before the storm, was a pretty built-out little city, with the exception of the St. Joe property on the west side. Now, we went back since the storm and analyzed land uses and where the impacts have occurred, basically the west side of Mexico Beach that was hit the hardest, to see, once those existing land uses are gone, what could go back. And so we've been tracking, what you've been improving and how you've been improving it, and, analyzing how it's actually rebuilding. And why we're looking at this is just to make sure that everything is protected, and then we need to make recommendations, associated with that. We can make them in that document. And then with the St. Joe property on the west side, St. Joe, and you've been dealing with some of the upcoming developments that St. Joe's proposing out there, so you're probably a little bit familiar that when that land use was changed and that property was annexed into the city, it actually had some requirements associated with Tyndall. And those requirements are some of the things that we're making for the other cities and the other areas, that especially that occur, you're in their flight path, you're not in their approach departure of Park 77 surface areas, but you are in their flight paths, and then also the city is also contained within the noise contours of the Sky 10 range. And so the property, St. Joe's property, and those requirements have been placed on that. And so what we want to do is kind of uniform that for not only the city of Mexico Beach, but the other 5 cities in the county, in developing a military influence overlay district. So what our recommendations are is to make sure that those policies, stay in place, and what they really do is provide for communication, coordination, and education. And as that area develops, we want to make sure people know, and those requirements are set in place, so they do know through real estate disclosures that the mission of Tyndall is ongoing, and that you're going to hear flight, you're going to see planes, you're going to hear planes, and then periodically you can hear testing that occurs on the east side of the Sky 10 range. And that's the whole purpose of this, is to really just let people know. It's education, communication, and then we also are recommending through the military influence overlay district that would occur in your comprehensive plan, your land development code, like you've already got in place for the west side. We are recommending that to take place with the 5 cities and the county. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. And again, once you look at the study, if you've got any comments or questions, let me know. I'm going to leave a hard copy with your clerk. So anybody wants to come look at it, they're welcome to. If there needed to be more printed copies, let me know. I'll bring you more. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Ray, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next on our agenda is, we have some, minutes of previous, meetings. We'll entertain a motion. Thank you. For, approval by consent, unless there's any corrections or additions.
Make a motion we approve by consent the minutes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition? Let the record reflect, passes 5-0. Okay, on the department reports, number 1 is financial.
Yes, sir, Mayor, and we have Debbie on the line to give you the financial update. I'm going to turn up the volume here and see how that goes. Hey there, Debbie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning.
Did everybody get a cash analysis report through December of 2020?
Yes.
Okay, so
question I have, Debbie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the only question I have is, this is through December 31st. Are the bank statements reconciliated?
No, no. The reason I was able to do this is I went and, researched and analyzed all of the bank statements and cross-referenced totals. So I know for a fact, this is gonna be close to where we are, but I haven't, recorded the actual individual payments to, the revenue accounts that are in the bank accounts, and I haven't posted the actual expenditures to the books yet because, to be honest, when the ACHs are done out of the bank, they're just lump sums and they haven't been reconciled to your ledger. Like, a good example is the health insurance payment. It's a lump sum withdrawal, but it hasn't been identified of how much goes to each employee, and then how much of each department, and then how much of each fund. So the lump sum has been posted to the ledger, but the individual details have not been, reconciled.
How far along are you in reconciliation?
Starting on January 2020, so I've done, I'm finishing up December and I'm starting on January, so I'm on the 4th month since October 13th.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Comments for this?
I just have a couple points I want to make too, if there's no other cash questions.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, the benefit for tax, I just want to make sure that you know I'm working on. The W-2s, those are ready to go. I just need the forms delivered, so we'll be able to hand those out pretty soon. 1099s will be going out with the W-2s. And then, I wanted to make sure that if Mario could supply all of the council and whoever wants it, my cell phone number and my contact information. I just want to make sure that if anybody ever needs to contact me, they have that phone number. And we can do Zoom meetings too if you guys want to see me.
I have, let Debbie know, I got an email this morning, the W-2 should be in today.
Did you hear that, Debbie?
Know what she said?
The W-2 form should be in today.
Oh, awesome. Okay, let me know when they're ready to go, Lindsay, and we can get those printed out.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Alrighty, anything else for me?
Debbie, if you'll send me the contact information that you want me to share with the council members, I'll make sure to share that document. So I have a bunch of contact information for you, and I'd rather you just send me something that's concise on the best way.
Sure, okay, I'll send you an email.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thanks.
Okay, Dan, you have anything?
Morning, nothing significantly new. Obviously, we now have our Lake County EMS paramedic upstairs with his new truck out front. They are now responding to all medical calls, and they will even go to some of our other calls if they deem it necessary. It's been working out extremely well so far. There's been, as always with the changes, a couple of little minor hiccups here or there, but I'm in constant contact with those in Bay County, and we're trying to sort those out as quickly as possible. So that's been a positive change, and that has been an improvement to the service that the city of Mexico Beach get from their tax returns to Bay County. Other than that, everything else with fire is pretty much the same as it is. There is one thing you can vote on later on, but we'll wait for that till then. Any questions?
Any questions for Sandy? Fire?
Mayor, along the lines of emergency management with Bay County has contacted us looking for a location to disseminate the vaccine. We reached out to the normal places that we would reach out to share a facility, and the church right here at the end of 22nd Street has volunteered to provide their space availability for Bay County. As soon as vaccines become available, they'll schedule something with us and let us know so that we can post within Mexico Beach.
Awesome. Okay. John, go ahead.
Provided y'all a copy of the 2020 stats for the sheriff's office over here. citations, 378, which of that, 285 are language warnings. And, 22 traffic accidents. As far as everything else, we've had a few little petty crimes in the last week or so, but nothing major is happening.
Question for Sheriff's Office? Or comment? Marty, thank you for the information. Building department? Hey, Jim.
Hey, we've permitted 3 new residential homes since the last meeting, kind of a slow time of the year, other than that, we did have a COVID exposure. Gina and Kelsey were exposed last week. We expect them back in the office tomorrow. They're both feeling fine, no symptoms, no signs, so. And other than that, Mario and I met with the new owners of Rustic Sands last week, and they wanted to meet with us to see what they could do to help the city and how best to address some of the concerns they have on their property. They're looking to clean up right now and think about plans for the future, so.
I don't know if y'all have been by there, but they've been putting down some rock base along the driveways and doing some level of cleanup even as we speak.
So as of now, they're gonna keep it as a campground?
As of right now, yes, sir.
Yeah, they're very energetic to get things cleaned up. I told them they got a lot to do. But we welcome them to our meeting. Thank you, Jim. Let me mention while we're on code, while we're on building department, I left with Mario a folder that has all of the lot splits that were identified from the lawsuit back in '07. I don't know how else to identify them other than in that file, but I did, the file was found. And so I hope we use that so that we don't issue something that we shouldn't issue based on, I mean, that was a long and drawn out lawsuit. And we prevailed in it and we proved that those lots were not built or should not be allowed to be built on until they go through the process. And the letters are actually in the file where the owners were notified. So we now have that. Okay. Kathy? Back there, there you go.
This coming Friday, we will have our special master. Myself will have our first hearings on 3 separate lots that have been neglected. We had a home demoed on Highway 98, which was, they've been working on that for quite some time, but they want to really build back. I just talked to her that last week, and they were pretty excited to get it all done. Angela's, or that mobile home lot that we have over there off 15th Street, they've sold, and they're now doing some cleanup over there. It's starting to look pretty good. Rustic Sands, again, I drove by all them yesterday, and they're looking good. We had a lot on 5th Street, 2 lots on 5th Street that have been cleared of the trees and stuff. So the city's moving along pretty good.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments for code? Public Works?
Good morning, council.
Good morning.
First off, we're still dredging. We're gonna continue to dredge for quite a long time. The guys are trying to get out of the canal. It seems like every time we have a front move through, it sends the canal over, but we are putting sand on the beach. And that's a good thing because we do have the beach renourishment project fixing to start. So just kind of give everybody an update, we will be dredging from now on for a pretty good while. Number 2 on the list, stumps. We still grinding stumps. The employees are. We got probably another 50 plus throughout the city. So we're going to continue to do that. Give you a little update on the sidewalks. I know that everybody probably noticed we're working on the sidewalks now. FEMA had allotted us, money to replace 27,251 square foot of concrete. That's what we were able to purchase. That translates into 5,036 lineal foot of sidewalk. So you'll notice going down through the city, there's places that we skipped and places that we're replacing. And what we've done, we've made about 3 trips, and David's been part of that, and Caleb, all the way through the sidewalks, and we picked the worst of the sidewalks to replace, parts that's missing, busted up, bad cracks in it. There's still gonna be a little bit left after this is finished, but, you know, I've talked with Mario about it, and I've got with Florida Department of Transportation, and once we're through with what FEMA will do for us, they're gonna step in and help us with some of the rest of it. So, we should, by the end of the day, we should be able to get all that pretty much took care of. Also, y'all notice that we've got the parking lot made down where Toucans used to be on the side of our parking area. That's pretty much finished. They got it lined, striped, and parking bumpers put in. I think it got just a little bit of cleanup left down there, but it looks really good. Turned out really nice, so we got that done. One project we can mark off the list. Also, the marina project is underway. They started putting the sheet pilings down. They started up at the bridge on by 98, working that way. So that has commenced, and we'll be keeping a good eye on that. Also, the Welcome Center has started. They've got the footers all poured and started blocking up to do the foundation. So that project also is underway, and if everything goes good, we should have that done and completed by the end of April. I think that's the date on it. Did want to let everybody know that next Monday is Martin Luther King holiday. The garbage route will run Tuesday and Wednesday for the first pickup, then Thursday and Friday for the second pickup. So it's only gonna shift that out by one day. For the month of December, we picked up 144,540 pounds of trash for the city. So, kind of give you an update on that. One other thing here I needed to give you an update on is the street signs. I told Mario to actually send him an email. I had a call last Friday from the guy that's supposed to be doing our street signs. Mario spoke with him about a month ago, and he informed Mario that we were gonna have those signs in about 3 weeks. Well, as of Friday, they haven't even started on them. He hasn't even got the material to start on them. I think he's having a financial problem. He told me that unless he paid $30,000 up front, he couldn't even get the material. So me and Mario's talked about it, and Mario may want to touch on this a little more, but maybe a point where we need to move on with something else on that. I don't know where we're gonna get them from him or not.
I've talked to Nick, and we're pulling that contract, and we're gonna get out of that contract, so we have to legally get out of that contract. Once we do that, we'll rebid the signage for someone else. Hopefully, we can find someone local that can do that. I did want to give a quick update on the marina. We have a meeting, I think it's tomorrow at 2:30, so we'll have a kickoff meeting on the marina on that. On the beach renourishment, we have a meeting probably scheduled for next week where we'll kick off that project. On the parking lot, we should be able to open that up now. And then we had a meeting yesterday on landscape. FDOT is not going to permit an irrigation system. They're mandating that we change the specifications that require the plantings to survive 2 years, but not give them an irrigation system to go by. So we're changing the specifications. We're gonna add some more days. I think we're gonna get our bids back on like the 29th, is that right? The last Friday of the month, we'll get our bids back so that we can still have it on the agenda for the first meeting in February. So that's.
Would you say that again about the irrigation? I guess I'm trying to read.
You remember yesterday on that conference call?
Yes.
At the very end of the meeting, the bottom line is FDOT will not approve a irrigation system for 1.25 miles worth of landscape.
Drip system, spray system?
Doesn't matter.
No
They-
system.
They want no system. What they're saying is require that you have a 2-year survivability which basically forces the landscaper to put a temporary irrigation system that isn't a line item, but you've gotta irrigate it. I mean, you can't plant a mile and a quarter worth of plants and not get it to survive. It's an FDOT hoop you gotta jump through. We're gonna jump through it. Some of the people will bail out of the bid. Others that deal with FDOT projects will stay on the bid and they'll just have some kind of a temporary irrigation system. But because that tailspin got put into the project yesterday, the bids were due on the 20th. We added 9 more days, so they'll be due on the 29th, and we'll see how the bids come in. And then lastly, I did want to update a little bit on the sidewalk. I know, Tommy, that we started off with 5,700 lineal feet of sidewalk. What did we end up with?
Well, that's actually what we have now. That's the latest, amount that we've got put down.
We originally had how much?
Yeah, we added, about 1,600, lineal foot to it, and then we had a issue that we found out. When FEMA done the inspection on it, they inspected it, they wrote it up as 5 foot wide. Well, we found out most of the sidewalk out Mexico Beach is 6 foot wide. So we've lost a square foot all the way down. So having to make an adjustment on the amount of concrete that we could use, that took about 200 lineal foot off the end. So we're back down now to we had about 1,400 extra foot to do. So, but the 5,036 lineal foot is what we have right now. That was the ending figure that we'll have to put down, on the sidewalk. And that's gonna be pretty close. It's gonna get all the bad stuff, and when I say what's gonna be left, it's basically gonna be spider cracks and stuff like that. If there's any toe stumpers, anything, Florida Department of Transportation said they will take care of that. So we're gonna be in, I think, fairly good shape when it's over. We've walked this thing down about 3 times from one end to the other and made readjustments. Mario asked me, he said, y'all added stuff, took stuff away, and we've done what we think is the best for the city to get rid of the worst spots, so that at the end of the day, we're not gonna have any people tripping, falling, or anything like that. But that is the end number. The 5,036 is the final figure that we had of lineal foot that we actually are gonna put down, that they're working on now.
And a letter was sent to FEMA in the state of Florida notifying them of the changes that have been made from the beginning of the project to date. There is a drawing that shows highlighted in yellow the areas that were taken out, highlighted in green the areas that were added, and highlighted in yellow and green for the areas where we took and went from paver to sidewalk.
How much more sidewalk do we have after that, do you think, that DOT is probably gonna try to help us with? Do you have any idea?
Mr. Darrell, when I talked to, his name's Martin, he is the engineer for Florida Department of Transportation that I met with. He pretty much told me that we needed to play out the FEMA scenario. Once we got everything done that FEMA would do out of the money, for me to contact him, he would come back out, and he said they'll pretty much take care of what's left. I mean, that's more or less what he said, that he didn't see any reason. They did not know, just to kind of give you an update with the Florida Department of Transportation, because it is their right of way. The only part they noticed was missing after the storm was, of course, down here in Parker Park. Well, if y'all remember, they came in immediately after we got that field put back in there, and they poured the concrete. Well, he said he didn't realize we had as much, nobody had reported to him that we had as much damage as what we had. And, I know that sounds kind of hard to believe, but you gotta understand, they're not just in Mexico Beach, all the way through St. Joe, Panama City Beach, everywhere else. They were getting reports of sidewalks torn up, and they've been working on those. So we didn't, I don't know, before I took over, nobody probably called him and told him about this. So he didn't know, but they are willing to help us. So, I think, like I said, at the end of the day, once we get through with what the city's doing now, with the FEMA money, once we get through with this, I think they're gonna come in and help us with what we got left to take care of that. I think we're gonna be in good shape.
Okay.
signs, I told y'all, we contact that art group, we'll have some good signs.
Somebody's doing a good job.
They are, I tell you. Kevin, you got something?
Yes, they're moving along, replacing those damaged fire hydrants still, so you're probably noticing where new ones look all over the city, popping up everywhere where the hurricane took them away. We've had a few small leaks here and there, and we did have a small wastewater overflow at MX1, due to a mechanical error on the power company side. And we had a problem, our generator didn't come on, which Wise Electric came down yesterday, Kohler's coming, the generator company, we're gonna figure out why it didn't transfer when we lost A phase. So that's being worked on, cause I know DEP's gonna wanna know why, and an answer. Other than that, we're doing good. We're still sampling. I just pulled a set of samples out of the canal and Salt Creek, everything's looking good so far. Hopefully this next set will be real low, get a hold of DEP and see if we can stop sampling.
Do we run that generator every so often?
Yes, every Wednesday, comes on automatic, we go down there and get the amps on the pumps and watch it. It's been transferring fine, it's just when they lost that phase on the power company, it didn't pick it up, and it should have. It should have come on and ran it, and we shouldn't have had an overflow.
Gotcha.
And, we're also, Hawk put in a price, so we can put, a system in there that'll call this phone if there is a problem for the water plant and the MX1. Marshall probably has it.
That's on the agenda.
Yes, sir, to something we can add. That way it'll notify me, hopefully I can get there and do what I need to do before it overflows again, if something don't start.
Okay.
And that was in the budget, so
Yes,
it's
sir.
a budget item.
Thank you, Kevin, appreciate it. Comments or questions for utility department?
MX1, Kevin, this up and running good?
Yes.
I mean, I know it's where we had to spill at, but with the pumps, we still need another pump there, or?
It's the third pump, should be back anytime. I'm gonna call them this week and see if they're done and get that third pump in. It's getting repaired. See where they're at with it.
And these pumps we have, it's 37th and all, we'll be paying this much money every month for pumping with it. Are we gonna work on that, see if we can't get the
We're waiting on easements for
easements?
36.
I know, we've been waiting for a while though.
Yeah.
We need to try to bump that up. That's a lot of money every month we putting out for a pump. $2,000 for a pump a month that we could, I hope we get even. I know it's not that easy, but I think we need to jump on that.
Yeah, it's all we're waiting on is get it back from the homeowners, give their permission with an easement through there so we can run a conduit to the pole to the lift station. Get an electrician to come in and wire it up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Rob?
I got something for, Tommy, I already talked to him, but, Mario, can you do something with the boat ramp, put a sign up? I went there 2 weeks ago, launched my boat, go out. Beautiful day, Tuesday, no wind, get to the end of the canal, it's closed. A sign at the boat ramp where the money boxes are somewhere that says canal, and you can have a thing that slides in, open or closed. Kind of discouraging when you launch your boat, you get to the end of the canal and you can't get out. And there's nothing to tell you that.
Yeah, I told Rock, Mayor, the council, used to, and I don't know if she's put it back there with the sign there at Kimberly's at the Welcome Center, it said canal open or canal closed. I'll be honest with you, through all the going back and forth, I hadn't even noticed if that's still sitting there or not. But Rock approached me this morning about that, and if Mario didn't have any problem with that, we could get a sign up. That way it could be a good job to give the canal crew that's doing the dredging. If they're going down the dredge, they're gonna have to put the push boat in. They can put a sign up if that canal is closed, that it says it's closed, and then, once they get it dredged and get it open, they can be responsible for taking that sign back up. If that's what the council would like to do, that's not, I told Rob, it's not an issue taking care of that. Cause I don't know if the one there Kimberly had is still there or not. I'll be honest with you, I don't know.
The one at the Welcome Center doesn't do anything for the ramp.
Yeah, no,
You
the
don't
boat
see
ramp's,
anything down there.
boat ramp's a better place, and hopefully we don't use the closed sign on it very often.
Yeah, hopefully not. And usually, the guys that's down there doing the dredging now, Troy and Nick, it doesn't take them long. If it's sanded completely over, usually in 2 days, Troy will punch a hole back through there. they're really good at what they do, and, so, you know, at the most, maybe a day or two, and they'll get a side opened up where a boat can get in and out. It's just that lately, it's been a fight with that northeaster blowing in. It doesn't take but just a little bit of wind, and it sends that, just one little strip across the end over. They can punch it back open in a day, but it's still, you know, they're fighting that, trying to get to that west side. If we need, like I mentioned in other meetings, if we can get that west side, start dredging it out, we're gonna rid that problem of the canal sanding over. We'll be able to go a long time before we have to worry about the canal sanding over, so.
Okay. All right, that's a good suggestion. We'll have something at the boat ramp.
Yeah, Mario's okay
What
with
you
that,
done,
I'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, David, you ready?
Morning.
Morning.
Well, Tom and Mario pretty much touched on everything on my list, but I'll kind of add some to it. On the sidewalk repairs, we contacted, Dean at AC Disaster to make sure we were able to kind of move some areas around before doing it, so we're not gonna get bit by FEMA later on when we come back, so. But I will admit, this whole project's been a bouncing ball, and Tommy and Caleb have done a great job of getting the best bang for the buck for the city.
So, y'all contacted FEMA or we contacted FEMA?
I asked Dina for the AC disaster if it was okay, because it was 428 funds, so they've already funded the project. And as long as it's being used for sidewalk repair, it was okay if we, instead of this area, we did this area.
Even if it was designated as pavers and we could put it in concrete?
It's sidewalk, so sidewalk could be pavers, concrete, decomposed granite, you know, it's under one category. I will say on the paver side though, much like Tommy said, they measured 5 feet versus 6 feet. When FEMA came out to measure the pavers, they measured a 4-foot paver. I guess there was debris or grass growing over the edge. It's actually a 5-foot paver. So to go back with pavers would have actually taken some funds away from what we had to use to get that extra foot of paver in there. The HOA, I think they were given the option that we would do concrete and they could pay for the upgrade of pavers. They said they didn't have the funds to do it, so they were fine with just going back to concrete.
Why did they have to pay an upgrade if FEMA had already approved pavers, because there's a spec in the plan?
Because again, there was 4 foot versus actual 5 foot. So it would have pulled money away, and when we did the math, the money we saved going from concrete to pavers to concrete, we applied elsewhere in the city.
Well, I just think it's a shame that those people paid for pavers to begin with. FEMA agreed to pay to put pavers back, and they didn't get pavers, they got concrete. And so, but the decision was made prior to sending the letter, too, so. I just wanna make sure that we're not held responsible for changing something that they still haven't approved. We still haven't got a reply from them. It was okay to change pavers to concrete.
Well, I mean, based on
As far as you know.
AC Disaster has told us, we're fine.
Do what now?
Based on what AC Disaster has told us, which is the consultant for FEMA, we're fine.
Okay.
The beach bypass, you know, we have, one of the permit conditions is we had to get a notice to proceed from FDEP and FWC, so we're going through that process now. We're gonna, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, have that notice to proceed and a pre-construction meeting so we can, turn North Florida loose. They will be complete before sea turtle season. That's kind of a critical date, May 1st, I believe. We're in good shape there.
Hang on just a second. Start of work pending DEP permit.
The notice to proceed, yes, sir.
So, notice to proceed, I mean, excuse me.
Yes, sir. So what part of the permit condition was that we had to submit the contractor, their turbidity monitoring, whoever's doing the bird monitoring, we had to submit that to DEP, let them approve the whole process, the set of plans and everything. Then they come back and give us the notice to proceed. It's just another step in the process that we have to do.
But is it, I mean, some of those steps can take a long time.
No, they're actually working with us. I emailed them last week with all the information. They came back within a day. So they basically said, give us dates for your pre-con. So I'm trying to get dates from all the parties, and we should have this in the next 2 weeks. given the complexity of the plans and the two sets of options that we have, so we extended that out to January 19th. And then our boat launch expansion, we're in design and permit with that. I don't think that's gonna be a big issue because the section of the ramp is man-made. In other words, when we put the ramp in to begin with, we had to dig out that wetland, so it's already been so-called permitted. It's just man-made right now, so it shouldn't be an issue with getting that process through.
And we are making it easier to get over for the long ones.
And our parking lot, is this all with 3 acres and the boats on? They give it for parking or
Right now, this is just adding the 3 ramps to it. I mean, we
not
can,
parking?
not the parking at this point. Now, this money is just for the design, and then Mario goes back in, I believe, with some additional paperwork for the funding for the actual construction. So at that point, we can address parking lots.
We need to park it where we park the boats, put the boats in, really. I mean, we run out there and establish it. We'll work on it, thank you.
David, on the 98 landscaping project, any of these changes, or are they expected to change? Are we gonna be able to live within our means?
Yes, sir. Talking to Patrick Hodges, the designer, he said basically, they're just, because right now, the way we have it bid, we got landscape plans, we got irrigation plans. So the irrigation plans will just come off the table. Landscape plans, he's gonna add some plantings to it. He's gonna keep making what he has, he's gonna add some to it, because we've got some freed up money at this point. And then, like Mario said, just put the condition in the bid that the contractor needs to provide the watering and maintenance.
So we don't expect it to cause us
Huge.
they won't, because all we have is the money from the grant.
Right, yes.
No matter what DOT takes off the table or adds to it, we still only have that much money.
$475,000.
Okay.
Because I would imagine temporary water is gonna be more expensive than people are thinking.
In my experience, when you get these bids back, there will be a pretty large number from the contractor for that line item. Typically, it could be a water truck that they run down, they monitor, they run a water truck up and down, or if they wanna go into the expense of putting in some type of pipe system and pressurized from a tank to feed it.
Oh, I have seen them put temporary irrigation down on top and then take it up, and that's expensive.
Most everybody walking over it.
Expensive too, it's very expensive, because you pay for it twice, put it down and take it up. It's gonna be interesting.
How good a job do you think the landscapers are doing on the plants that they're choosing? I mean, because there's a lot of plants that, essentially sea oats, I mean, if you put sea oats in the ground, you're not even ever supposed to water. So I know there's a lot of plants that can go in the ground, so you guys, when you're talking to them, you're trying to get those kinds of plants anyhow, and I'm sure they should be trying to do that since they're not gonna be able to water them correctly.
All the plants are native vegetation that's already growing in this area. We've not gotten anything exotic.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that they have to irrigate are the actual trees, the hollies and the oak, sand oaks and the palm trees. Those are the ones that really need the water the most.
Well, all of them, I've been in landscape and even the native stuff, you gotta water it to, at least it gets the roots established before it can start doing anything, so. I mean, be careful with what you're putting in and cut down a lot of the risk of losing stuff.
Oh, and that's why there's a 2-year warranty period in the plant survival as well.
Other questions for David, for Dewberry? Okay, thank you. Ryan?
Hey, everybody. Just want to give everybody kind of a quick overview of some things happened in the last month. Get this out before we start. And top of the list, I'll say we, with kind of did get the lift station project obligated by FEMA. I mentioned that one, last time to you guys, that's one we've been pushing for a while. I got to fortunately, I guess, you know, for better or worse, that project's been pretty much done for a while, but the good part of that is that we had a lot of the documentation we needed for the reimbursement already ready to go. So I've got that over to FDEM. They're still kind of getting it into their system, but, you know, they should hopefully get the reimbursement request going, on that, which is good news. The other one that I think I mentioned last time was the wastewater collection system. That one's still in pending final FEMA review, which is basically the last stage, same place that it was last time, but they had kind of focused all their attention on trying to get one of those projects through, and like I said, they got the lift stations going through, so that was good. Hopefully, my hope is that by the next time I'm up here in the next month, we'll have that wastewater collection one through to obligation as well. Another big sort of win for us was, back in October, we got, finally got approval for the substantial damage estimate project, which is about a $400,000 project. I pulled that together in November, and that one moved really quickly through. We had that one set up well, and didn't have to go through HP review, which is like the environmental review from FEMA side. So that one's basically now up to the final FEMA review stage, which is really good as well. Again, similar kind of thing, I'm hoping by the next meeting we have that one obligated as well. Just on some actual cash flow items, we've gotten the A&E payments of about $200,000 on a couple of projects. Those came through. Basically, we worked with the state and KPMG, who's their contractor, to say kind of, hey, these A&E ones are a lot easier to approve than having to go in and go through sort of line by line on the construction projects, which is what they have to do. So we asked them to kind of push those through a little quicker, and got those payments just last week. And then we also have submitted a lot of the data, and information on the demo projects and the private property debris removal projects. So that's now kind of initiating that conversation with FEMA, as I like to think of it. There's always back and forth. They have to go through again, line by line on all that kind of stuff, but we've gotten kind of the first stage there, and I expect we'll be in a back and forth with them, just trying to walk them through what those projects look like. And then finally, we got the pier, jetty, and police and fire all under design development at this point. Got the summary at the bottom there of the table. We've got about 85 million obligated and 54 million paid out of that. And then kind of close out, I mentioned last time, we've been working on getting the reimbursements together for the NRCS project. We got about $1 million at the NRCS level getting processed. We talked to them earlier this week, I guess yesterday. They said hopefully by next week, they'll have that payment ready, and then simultaneously we're working to pull together the last reimbursement package of that last $1 million or so, to get that to them and get that project kind of wrapped up and get the reimbursement on it. So that's kind of the overall summary. Happy to take any questions on any of that stuff.
The obligated amount, 85 million, and the paid amount, that's money that they have already paid, or we have already paid, and we're waiting on them to.
Yeah, so the paid amount is how much we've received. Yeah, that's a good clarification. And the obligated amount is basically like how much we've been granted to be eligible. We just haven't gotten the actual reimbursements for it yet. If that makes sense.
Some of the obligated funds will actually be in the state's hands, and the state is slow at processing it out as they review 100% of the invoices.
So, we had a discussion yesterday, it's estimated that the storm's gonna cost us 100 million.
That's the amount that we feel is probably gonna be obligated to us in the end for projects.
Do we feel that that's gonna cover what needs to be done, 100 million, or are we gonna end up doing?
So, I mean, I guess there's the broader question of like, are there other things that aren't included that we haven't submitted projects for? I mean, there's tons of stuff when we're doing things like the NRCS, which is completely separate from the FEMA project and all of that. Maybe this will give a little bit of context. The remaining about 15 million that we're estimating there is we still got the couple of projects like the pier, jetty, police fire, that we think will kind of push us up, that are gonna be about that 15 million. They may be a little more, maybe a little less, it's just kind of a, you know, nice round number that we're saying 100 million there. Is that what you're asking?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then, on top of all of those, there's also HMGP that we're going after and CDBGDR that we're going after, that are not inclusive on this list, that are, I think both of those are north of $20 million requests.
The lift station for me, what we're gonna first one right there?
Yeah. What was it? Sorry again?
The lift station, which one is that? Is that all of
It's
them?
all of them, yeah. It was a, other than MX1, I should say, the MX1 was a completely separate project, because it was like the big one. But then we basically wrapped all the other lift stations into a single project. And that amount that you're looking at there, that doesn't include the amounts. FEMA doesn't allow duplication of benefits, so you guys receive some money for like insurance payments and that sort of thing, and that's not included in, that 600,000 amount that I noted there.
And on the demolition now, what we trying to submit there, they gonna demolish houses or something for us?
Yeah, demolition of houses. So that was something that happened a little before my time on the project, but basically going through and demoing, we got some approvals to do demos on individual houses and do the demoing on those. And so now this is us trying to go.
Is that the same three houses?
Well,
They
this
talked
is,
about for
this
like
is
6
for,
months?
sorry, say again.
The three houses that was on the list?
No, this is
These are all
for, this
prior
is,
houses.
yeah, this is for the prior ones, and then we've still got, they're all part of the same project ultimately, but we've got this big chunk of, I think it's 25, 30 houses that had all gotten done back in the day, and we're trying to get that through FEMA approval, and then there's a
Well,
couple.
what happened to the three houses? It was just, like a couple months ago, we talked about God's house, you know, that moved it and
Yep.
they said they approved it and then, where are we with that?
We got approval on 2 of those houses. One of them had already been demoed, it turned out, when we went out and site inspected it. And basically what happened, if you remember, FEMA approved the extension request to continue doing work on it, but we only had 2 weeks to do it. We tried really hard to get that done. We just couldn't get the staff out there to.
So we're starting over?
So now what's happened is I've asked for another time extension on the project. FEMA has kind of tentatively approved those last 2 properties, and they've said, like, you can do them, and if you wanna do them at risk, essentially, where we haven't given you the time extension, which is a little, I can go into that in a minute, it's a little complex, but they said, if you wanna do it, and then we'll give you the time extension, you know.
Well, we gotta have it, cause by the time they approve it, the time extension will be expired again.
Yeah, so I asked for this time extension through December 2022, to make sure that when we finally get it through, we'll have plenty of time to do those last 2 within the FEMA approvable period of performance. So, I'm with you, it's a frustrating situation that we've got those 2 in and.
Didn't make it.
Huh?
We didn't make it because of the time issues, is that what you're saying?
Basically, what happened was that we have submitted 2 time extensions. We did those other 25, 30 properties, again, I can't remember the exact number, up through the original time frame that FEMA allowed us to do them through. And we just had 2 left, and we were like, all right, we really wanna do these 2, can we get a time extension? We asked for one through July 2020, didn't hear anything back, and as that date was approaching, we said to them, hey, what's going on? We haven't heard anything back on this, are we gonna be able to do it? And they said, submit another time extension. So we submitted one through the end of 2020, and we heard back basically the second week of December that they were approving it, which left us 2 weeks over the holiday to try to do those 2 demos, and we're just gonna get the staff out there. So now they've said the same thing, well, if you couldn't do it in those 2 weeks, ask for another extension, so.
Okay.
One of the complications with one of the homes is part of a quadruplex. So when you demo this townhome, you endanger the next townhome in Domino. So one of the problems we had was we had to get permission from all three of the other homes, just in case demoing this one had a repercussion on the other two, which just made it that much more complicated.
Question for Ryan, enactment, anyone, or comment? Ryan, thanks for the update.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, moving on to our regular agenda items, first one is a minor replat, 38th Street, we're electing the public hearing tomorrow, if you would, again, as you normally do, just a brief synopsis of what we're doing.
Mayor, this is basically two platted lots that are owned by one individual that wants to build a home that straddles the two platted lots. So, planning board looked at it, reviewed it, recommends approval.
Okay, is there anyone here to speak? Yes, sir.
I'm one of the owners of, 107 A and B. Just like to, put those together. I don't know what else to say, just put them together, make one lot of it. Have it replatted, be less dense.
All right, for the record, if you could identify yourself, please.
Rick Reed.
Thank you, Rick.
And these are townhome lots, so I don't know exactly how wide they are, but around 16 feet apiece
Yeah.
combined, it'll be 30 some odd feet.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is one of the items I think we're working on to not do this. Am I correct? That we aren't gonna,
We're hopeful that the council will say that it's okay for the planning department to receive the request, me look at it, if they were platted lots and they're being combined, that's okay. Nope. Here's something that I have to clarify. These townhome lots have been sold as townhome lots since the 80s. They've never been platted as townhome lots. The actual plat for these lots is 50-foot wide lots, and whenever 1980 came around, somebody took 12 of these 50-foot wide lots and made all these 15, 16, 18-foot wide lots. So it is a hybrid of what we talked about, and I didn't notice that until this one here, that it is truly, it's not his lots are not plat 1 and plat 2. His
yeah, I
lot
noticed it's by meets and bounds.
pieces and parts, correct, it is meets and bounds. It is combining two historically separate lots that have historically had two homes, and he's making it into one lot that will only have
It
one.
meets and bounds creates that creates a little different situation than what I think of as lot blocking units. So in this case, under meets and bounds, there will be a requirement then for
What they're doing.
an engineer, yeah, what we're doing, and also there'll be how you gonna identify it? I mean, will there be a survey?
There is a survey that's in this.
Yeah, all right, that's a completed survey. Okay, I guess. All right, are there any others to speak during the public hearing? I will close the public hearing, bring to the table for discussion or motion.
Would this be a replat or a minor replat?
The minor replat.
Taking a lot, two lots that was in a big area of lots, and just doing a minor replat.
Okay? Discussion or motion?
As long as you through now, I mean, know how you are. I make a motion to pass the minor replat at 107 38th Street, A&D.
Okay, have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Call?
Yes.
Mr. Peak?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2 is, 38th Street, it's just the other 2 lots.
This is basically the exact
I
same
thought
thing,
it was a
just
misprint, I got.
two lots further down.
Yeah.
Same
We'll
scenario.
open the public hearing for comments, on the replat of 107 38th Street. Anyone here to speak?
I can speak for my neighbor. She gave me the authority to speak. It's same thing, same
Same thing.
thing.
What do y'all, you just gonna put one kind of townhome, because it's a 0 side setback,
We're
right?
gonna be a duplex with a party wall in the middle.
And then, for both lots, for both new platted lots?
No, it's.
So in other words,
107 A and B was gonna be one lot. 107 C and D will be another lot.
And that party wall's gonna be right between those
Right
two
on
lots?
the property line of A and B, well,
So you
C
got
and,
one residence on one side of the new line, and another residence, but they're joined by a party wall.
yes.
Okay, do you have any idea what's gonna happen on the other one down there? You heard what those people are gonna do on the last one?
On, like E and F,
It doesn't, I
C
can't
and
tell
D.
which one's E and F here.
You talking about his neighbors?
Yeah.
That's this one here, C and D.
C and D is the one that's up for now, what I'm
Right.
talking about right now.
Exactly.
Well, there's another skinny one, and then one a little wider on.
That would be E and F, that's to my knowledge. And I'm not sure what they're gonna do. It's, they've been going back and forth, and I don't know what's gonna happen, honestly.
Those are two separate owners for those two lots?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments for the public hearing? They will close the public hearing, again comes the table. Comments, discussion, or motion?
I make a motion to pass minor replat at 107 38th Street, C and D.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Call?
Yes.
Mr. Peak?
Yes.
Moving to number 3 is a variance request for, 118 Canal Parkway. We'll open a public hearing. This is just a front setback request. Is there anyone here to speak for 118 Canal Parkway?
Mayor, the gentleman that submitted this for the variance request is currently in the hospital to the best of my knowledge, so he's not able to come. And I'm fairly certain his wife is by his side. They did make a request. If granted, this would encroach on the front setback by 5.1 feet, which is fairly substantial.
Yeah, I see it was denied and is recommended for denial. I had a hard time reading his letter. I mean, I think I got the gist of it, but as far as, that is part of the record, I would assume. But I think it's on our agenda, we should act on it or, whatever. If there's no one to speak for that, we'll close the public hearing and we will bring it to the table for discussion, comment, or motion.
Mario, I can't really see that good. You said it'd be approaching 6 foot, is that what you? I had-
5.1 feet.
Somebody seen that? That's on the front right there.
Yes, sir, on the front.
And the front's supposed to be what, 20?
20.
So leave it 15 feet from roughly.
Was there anything presented that speaks to something unique about the property that makes the normal rules unfair to apply?
And they had originally set the home a little further back or a little different angle, they might have been able to do it, but that's not unique to the property.
So if we deny it, they have to redesign and do something that'll fit. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know if there's anything that would fit, they would have to basically do something different.
They haven't built yet. Have
Yeah,
they
no,
built?
they're following the process of asking.
It's a good man, all I'm saying.
Well, this home is fairly new. I didn't realize when they built it, what they would have to do.
So it is built.
The house is built, they're asking for variance to extend the
Yeah, the house is there.
To extend the what?
extended balcony. The drawing shows the deck that they want to extend.
Oh, okay.
This little peanut house up there.
Oh, I know who this is. Yeah, I know the house now.
You see the area in yellow, they want to have that, it encroaches on the setback.
Okay.
That's getting out there a lot.
Well, where it's at, in that, kinda in that corner right there. And the fact that they have to live by the lift station, of course, they knew that to start with, but anyhow, I don't have a real major problem with it where it's at, personally.
But what about the next person down the line will do it? Five in it.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying,
On one.
I'm just saying it's unique because of where it's at for me.
In your packet, you've got the standards for variance in your application that they submitted, standard review, page 49 of the version I'm looking at. You want, if you're inclined to want to approve this, you should look at those standards and make your best effort to explain how
This is,
it's starts with an E.
those are the reasons why you could approve or deny.
So which page are you on?
We don't have pages, it looks like this, that's why I'm showing you the page.
It's 49 and 83 in mine. I can just read through the standards.
Okay.
Like I said, if you're inclined to want to approve this, you should think about these standards and make your best explanation for them. Let's skip the first one. The second one is, the applicant must clearly demonstrate and show that the hardship is unique to the applicant's property, and is not suffered by adjacent or adjacent nearby property owners or the general public. Number 3 is the hardship relates to the land involved rather than the applicant's personal circumstances. 4, the hardship is not the result of the applicant's own actions. 5, the variance, if approved, is the minimum necessary to provide reasonable beneficial use of the property involved. And 6, the variance is specifically intended and necessary to promote other important city objectives or policies. A little while back, I think we worked with staff on solidifying some of these standards in your code, but for right now, these are your standards you have, they're in your application package. And they're very typical of a variance approval standard.
further discussion or motion?
Make a motion to deny the, bear setback.
I second.
Have a motion and a second, further discussion or comment? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy,
Yes.
Mr. Pollock,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
Ms. Call,
Yes.
Mr. Key.
No.
Okay, change in use, number 4, open the public hearing. I think the title of on the agenda speaks for, or is anything to add other than it is what it is?
It's just a change of use.
Is anyone here to speak for, 101 40th Street?
Planning and zoning did recommend approval.
Yes, I
Staff
saw that.
recommended approval.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. This is old Bob and Jeff's auto or slash, used to be pizza. I can't think of the name.
40th Street Pizza.
Yeah, 40th Street Pizzeria, there you go. Too simple. Is there anyone want to make a motion? Or discuss it?
In P and Z, their opinion was
Approval.
okay.
I see nothing wrong with that.
I make a motion, we, accept the, variance
Second.
or the change to 101 40th Street.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy.
Yes.
Mr. Pollock,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Call.
Yes.
Mr. Key.
Yes.
All right, and number 5 is open public hearing for change of use at 2802 Highway 98, Unit C. Anyone here to speak? Okay, close the public hearing and again, entertain motion or discussion.
I like that cream. I make a motion we approve the change of 2802 Highway 98.
Okay,
Second.
have a motion and second, discussion or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy.
Yes.
Mr. Pollock,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Call.
Yes.
Mr. Key.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to resolution 2101. I have a motion to read resolution 2101, the title only.
Make a motion to read resolution 2101 by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Linda, please do so.
A resolution of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, approving a quote from Hawk SCADA for WTP and MX1 in the amount of $10,093.00.
All right, before we motion for approval or adoption, Marvin, you want to?
This is it's basically a controller that would send a signal to Kevin and whoever he has on call that evening to let them know that there's an alarm either at the water treatment plant or at MX1. We have that now for the other lift stations. Unfortunately, we don't have it for the 2 biggest things we have, so it was included in our budget at the end of last year, so we were looking forward to doing this, but if council would so approve, we'll get those ordered and installed.
And we did bid to that, Marvin? We bid this,
Because
we only had for the other ones, so we want to keep this.
everything that we have is SCADA, we have to stay SCADA, otherwise we're mixing apples and oranges and they won't communicate with one another, so this is a proprietary bid.
All right, is there a motion for adoption?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2101.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Keith?
Yes.
All right, 2102. Do I have a motion to read 2102 by title only?
Make a motion to read resolution 2102 by title only.
Second.
Got a motion second. Lindsay, please read.
A resolution of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, approving a proposal from for a SCBA air compressor and fill station with Municipal Equipment Company LLC in the amount of $36,414.60.
All right, Mario again.
Mayor, this is, a tank filling station that would refill the tanks that the fire department uses for, their air when they fight a fire. These funds are coming from funds that, the fire department received from the state, so it's utilizing those funds.
I'm curious who's Scuba Air Compressor?
It was publicly bid, so it did go out to multiple people, and
No, I think what he's asking what SCBA stands for, which is self-contained breathing apparatus. So that pack that we have on our back of the bottle is called a self-contained breathing apparatus. The company is Municipal Equipment, company that are supplying it to us, and it's a manufacturer called Mako that are making it.
Okay, but I mean, it's Scuba Air Compressor.
No, for SCBA, which is self-contained breathing apparatus.
Okay, so,
It looks like scuba, but it's not.
okay.
Although they can in theory fill scuba.
Okay,
That's not
okay, I got it. It's not, okay, you're right. It just looks like.
They know exactly that.
You gotta take the U out.
That's right. Don't have the unit, you're right, thank you. Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2102.
Second.
Motion second, call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Keith?
Yes. Can I just go ahead and say something else?
Sure.
Sandy says this thing will last us for the next 20 years or whatever.
I mean, this is a piece of equipment that will basically, if properly maintained, which it has to be every year, has to be serviced by the supplier as such, or some, or the equipment thereof, should last us for a long, long time. So it is something that is very, very useful. It enables the fire department to train on a regular basis using that apparatus,
Which is the key element.
which is the key element of the whole thing.
Right.
To be ready and able to use it when necessary. At the moment, we have 21 bottles. If we train on those and use 5 or 6 of those bottles, we are down a significant number, and I have to take them to District 11 up in Youngstown to have them refilled by Bay County. So this will enable us to refill them, literally finish them, go over to the filling station and refill them, and they're straight back into service again. And it's something that, as I say, we will have going forward, properly maintained. It should last a long, long time. It's not a spend it now and worry about buying another one 2 years from now. This is something that we will have for a long, long time, long after most of us are not sitting here.
And I think if we find Sandy doesn't have a lot to do, maybe we need to start selling air to the scuba divers.
There you go.
Sal.
There you go. That's where the scuba comes in.
I knew we'd get to it.
A few more reefs and you never know what might happen.
That's right. Okay, next is ordinance 748. I have a motion to read by title only.
Make a motion to release, ordinance 748 by title only.
Second.
Lindsay, please read.
An ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, authorizing the sale of 246 Lala Lane and providing an immediate effective date.
Okay, this is self-explanatory. Any questions? Got a motion for adoption?
If we would add from 70, we got 69, is that what we got out there? 68.
We have it
price here?
I thought they offered what we were asking.
They were, yeah, they did.
It's a full,
It's 69,000. The 68,000 is what they still owe after the deposit to pay.
it's a full price offer.
Is that what we decided the price should be?
That is what we said it at several months ago.
You know, we turned down the last one.
I knew we should turn one down.
This is what we was asking to start with.
The background of why you're seeing the ordinance today, as you know, you need an ordinance in the city to sell real estate as part of your charter. But we did the first reading this summer, and interest in the property waned, and it just didn't stay top of mind for everyone, so there was never a second reading, we didn't have the value. So this would be a second reading of the ordinance from this summer, and then once a full price offer, the attachment is the contract, that lays out all the terms.
Okay. Is there a motion for adoption?
Make a motion we adopt ordinance 748.
Second.
Motion second, call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Keith?
Yes.
One other quick update, I checked on this file before leaving this morning, everything's going smoothly on it. It's expected to close February 4th.
All right, ordinance 755, do I have a motion to read by title only?
Make a motion to read ordinance number 755 by title only.
Second?
Motion second, please do so.
An ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Code to modify the Townhome District zoning category, principal uses, to allow single-family detached and eliminate multifamily residential, providing for codification, repealing ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and an immediately effective date.
All right, Mario, give us some.
Mayor, at one point in time, we advertised that we were gonna have a meeting on such and such a date, and we didn't meet the timeline that we needed, so we're codifying something that we did in the past.
Yes, we attempted to adopt this ordinance on November 10th. The notice that we published stated that the meeting was gonna be at 5 p.m., which is the default approach for the ordinance to change what's allowed in zoning category. Our last meeting, we had a vote to handle this item at a 9 a.m. meeting instead of a 5 p.m. meeting. We noticed that in the newspaper, it ran correctly. So this is a rule that you probably thought already was done and improved. We're going through the effort one more time in case folks who are watching those notices complain that they didn't get to participate last time.
I remember. Motion for adoption?
I make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 755.
Second?
Motion is second, call the roll, please.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Pollock?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Keith?
Yes.
All right. Number 10,
Mayor, probably back in June or July, I mentioned to council that the state legislature had funded the city $500,000 to purchase land that would augment the city pier. I've been beating the bushes here and there, looking for land available to purchase that is close enough to the pier to augment the purposes of the pier. Everybody that I've called has just not returned calls. I actually received a call just before the Christmas holidays of somebody that had some issues with changing land use and building a home and this, that, and the others. They just wanted to sell it. And I asked them if they were interested in selling the parcel, and they said yes. And then they also added that their mother-in-law that owns the two adjacent parcels was also interested in selling. So all of a sudden, I've got two 16-foot wide parcels, one 50-foot wide parcel, and one 19-foot wide parcel. It all adds up to about 101 lineal feet. They're all 100 feet deep. that is available for sale. I asked him his asking price is $485,000. According to the grant funds that we're receiving, we have to get an appraisal, we have to get a survey. Before I go out and get an appraisal and a survey to see that the value is correct, I wanted to make sure that y'all were okay with the location. The location is on 37th Street, which is where the pier is. It's not right up against the water. It's approximately 150 feet north of the city's property on the east side. And it is 4 separate parcels, 3 of which are townhome and 1 that is tourist residential. So if the city were to purchase it, it has the same height restrictions of 30 some odd feet. It has the impervious area restriction of 50% on the single family and 85% on the townhome. We can do a public type building. We could do some parking there if you just wanted to use it strictly as parking at 100 feet of depth, 20 foot wide, 24 foot corridor in the middle. You could get 20 cars there. You could do a small public park and a little bit of parking. You could do a memorial for the hurricane. Again, lots of things you could do. It's within that area that has parking for the pier, so it could augment that. It could have the ticket booth for the pier or a tackle shop, or again, sky's the limit on what you could do within that facility. The funds that the state is providing will cover the cost up to appraised value, I believe. So if it doesn't appraise for $485,000, the city might have to come a little out of pocket. Don't know. I'm just giving you worst case scenarios. But if the city likes the idea of that particular parcel, I'll go ahead and release for the survey and the appraisal. I've gotten 2 prices for appraisals. Both of them I think were in the $700 range. And I think the surveys were coming in at $500 per parcel. So if I combine all 4 parcels, I don't know, it might be something a little different, but just wanted to bring that up for your discussion. The money that's available through the state does have a drop dead date, and I forget if it's March or April, so it's not too far out.
So if it comes back, the appraised value, then are we gonna be able to talk to the seller and see if they will?
Sure.
Okay.
Again, then it's up to the seller. If it appraises at $450,000, whether the seller will take the $450,000 or whether the city will have to fund the extra $30,000 to meet the $485,000. Again, that's negotiation, so I don't wanna think outside of where we are. But
We're gonna be out about $2,500 to find out roughly.
Yes.
Give or take a little less than $3,000 to decide, for us to know.
And if it sells, then I think those costs are probably covered in the, I think, I'm not 100% positive, but I think those would be covered in the closing.
Mario, can you hold off on the survey until after the appraisal's done?
Certainly, yeah.
I think that's an option,
Mhm.
so that
Yeah, that's,
lessens your exposure, but it's good to get the authorization now, so you don't have to come back and ask later.
So do the appraisal and hold off on the survey.
yeah, and the appraisal was only $700, so that's a minor cost.
Yeah, it's June 30th this year that the grant expires. Maybe they'd extend it, maybe they wouldn't, but that's not a lot of time to work with since we don't have something under contract right now.
Do we wanna proceed with that as far as, see what we can come up with?
I say go with it.
Is this all the property that we have to do? We have to do a certain amount? The city has to buy a certain amount? I just heard stuff, I don't know. We're required.
We have $500,000 to spend on purchasing land that will
Benefit the pier.
benefit the pier.
All right, and this is on the pier road, so. Yeah, okay.
All right, well, it sounds like you just get that, and then we can negotiate with them, see what the appraiser says.
Yes, sir.
Anything else on that one? We're moving on,
Yes, sir.
okay? Estuary program, number 11.
Florida State University is doing a study that looks at St. Joseph's Bay and St. Andrews Bay, and we're right in between. These studies tend to look at stormwater discharge developments, access, you know, again, it's a study, it's a university study. They would like input from, the municipalities that are adjacent to, the two estuaries. We're slap dab in the middle of both of them. So they would like a representative from the city council. I was on one of their webinars not too long ago and told them all the things, you know, we actually influence, St. Andrews Bay through the intercoastal, and we of course influence, St. Joseph's Bay because our water and our, marina access is St. Joseph's Bay, so, they would like to have someone representing, those meetings.
Okay, have anybody want to volunteer to be on that board?
I'll do that.
There you go.
And you do.
All right, can you submit, everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Darryl. You'll just submit his name, give him the information. All right, number 12,
Atkins and Cat Z, we had a meeting with each one of the council members because it's a very complex issue. The bottom line is we will continue to monitor what gets obligated, and the complication with what gets obligated is that the state will continue to hold 50% for a longer period of time. We will not approve anything for Adkins/AC disaster without y'all's approval in a council meeting anyway, so it's really not any different than what we've been doing with, Crowder Gulf and KK Storm, that when funds get allocated and they get approved, I will bring them forward, or when we need to make a payment, whether we have funds or don't have funds, I'll bring them forward for you guys to look at, so. It's just bringing everybody up to speed on what the state is doing. In the meantime, what I will do is I will get on, the legislative agenda that Bay County puts together and goes to the state to talk about every year in February, so that we can get this 50% hold relaxed to something better than 50%, because 50% for the duration of the storm is a major chunk of money for an unknown amount of time. So it was more for information than anything else, because we will bring any payments to the council to make payments forward for Atkins.
What is Cat Z?
Cat Z is the management money, so it's everything that,
He's gone.
I'm sorry, Ryan works for Atkins. Atkins is the company that has been here with the storm, probably a month after the storm today. They track everything that we're doing with FEMA, with HMGP, with CDBG, with all these different things that we're doing, that we're getting money from FEMA and then from the state. They track them, they monitor them, they make sure that we're following the right process, and then they provide the information to FEMA, they track the funds that are coming back to us. And for that, the FEMA will pay 5% of the total dollars. So again, he mentioned $100 million is the goal. 5% of $100 million is $5 million. We look to, at the end of the day, have paid Atkins $5 million at the end of the storm. What the state is doing is they're trapping that last 50% of that $5 million, and they're saying we won't pay that until the end of the storm, so it complicates life. That's why I'll be going to the state to see if they will.
Till the end of the storm.
Yeah, good luck knowing when the end of the storm is.
yeah.
Again, it's not an easy answer, it's a complex nightmare, and I just had to bring y'all up to speed.
It's the thing I don't like about it is, I had a meeting yesterday, I had nothing against Atkins at all. I think they're doing a good job at the Cat C payments, and the city's got to pay them. I just don't think, and the state's holding the money. I just don't think the city, I don't think the city should make the payments.
Do we have a contract with them in some way, the city?
We have a contract with them that says that we have to pay them within a certain period of time. Now, I will tell you that the payments that they have been receiving are typically about 6 months in arrears, which is pretty good.
that they should be, in the end of the day, paid? How much have they gotten so far? How much are we gonna be obligating ourselves for from this date forward? Do you know?
They have obligated $3.4 million, so the state has released $1.7 million. And again, that spreadsheet that I gave you yesterday had another 1.3 of other projects that are obligated and paid for, and another 359,000 that are obligated and paid for. The bottom line is, from this point forward, if we pay, it would be only with your approval, because we're gonna have to show you where we're getting the funds from to pay.
But how much, just tell me how much, because instead of telling me what's coming from what, how much have we already paid them of the $5 million?
Total paid to date to Atkins on all the categories, on all the different things, is $4.5 million. Which is, what I'm saying is, it's 5 million plus all these other figures. I mean, it's 5 million plus 1.3 plus, 359,000. So it's, the total figure, once we get deeper into CDBG and we get deeper into HMGP, is gonna be over the $5 million. These are all, there's nothing simple about this. That's why we had the one-on-ones, trying to answer as much as we could.
So,
I'll bring to you before we make the next payment.
I know, but I'm just, how much, because we're fixing to obligate ourselves.
Not obligated to anything. I'm telling you where we are.
We gotta
and
go
then
ahead and pay it, I mean, but you're saying, we gotta go ahead and pay it or they go away.
What I'm saying is, the next time that we go to make a payment, I will bring it before you to make that payment. And the next payment will, let's say that we're gonna make a payment for $200,000. I'll show you where and how we're gonna come up with the $200,000 and recommend that we pay it. We still owe them approximately $350,000 today,
As of today.
as of today.
And then we're gonna owe more than that.
Next month we'll owe them another $60,000 or $70,000.
And they're not, and they're not willing to take part of that since the state's holding their money up. The state's holding the money up, it's not us that's holding the money up.
Their contract is for,
I understand that, Mario.
that's why they're also floating it for 6 months. I mean, they're,
Have we talked to them about that?
that's why I'm here talking to you.
Has something recently changed to?
The state of Florida is unique in that it is the only one that retains 50%. Other states, once they get the money from FEMA, once they do the reviews, release all the funds, which is why I plan to go to the state's legislature and see if they can change some of their thinking, because this is new on Michael. This is not the case on the storm further south, and
FEMA said that those fund requests are appropriate, provide money, money sitting with the state saying, while we review this more, here's how.
But I don't think we should be making payments. The city should. I don't think we should. I mean, I have nothing against acting like I said before, but I don't think we should be, especially making these cap city payments.
please understand if at some point that could complicate the work process.
FEMA's complicated. State is now too.
Why don't we leave it that you can, when you make a payment, you'll discuss with us how the money, where, you know, how we're arriving at those funds, and it is a contractual arrangement. None of us like the terms the state's put on us, but that's, yeah, so we can just figure out a way to keep everybody happy.
Would that primarily come out of general fund, you think, or what? Or you go in and take some out of the sewer, depending on what it was for?
Again, in my conversations with Debbie, it's basically a loan, because at the end of the day, we will get paid. So in talking to Debbie, there are funds that we can borrow from other funds. We can borrow from utility funds, we can borrow from other funds. We just have to track where it's coming from and funds, as you saw in the cash at the very beginning of the meeting, we have the cash available. We have to be careful with the cash that we have, because at the end of the day, some of those monies are gonna be used to provide the match and other things. But again, with CDBG, some of those matches will come out of the scenario because the CDBG will provide some of the matches. I don't have all the answers, but we're going after a lot of different ways to provide solutions. It's not easy. I'm a messenger, and this is where we are.
I know what you're saying about bringing it back to us, but in my opinion, I think we need to decline to act in DC cap and Z pay. That's what I think.
Okay, any other comments? Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to decline to act as AC/DC cat C pay.
I need more information. That's what I need
No worries.
before I can do anything. I can't make a decision on what you don't know about. Exactly.
Can we, I mean, it is a complicated thing to have 2 or 3 days to look at, figure out. Can we not table it till the next meeting?
well, there's nothing here to present to us.
Yeah, again, this
And
wasn't
we're
anything
not
for the
acting
vote.
on anything.
I was just bringing you up to speed on where we are with those,
Well,
and
yeah.
my goal was to, when there's the next payment, I'll bring it before you to make that payment, otherwise you can disapprove it on the next payment request. That would be a motion type place, but he's also able to make a motion, most certainly.
So that's what I'm saying.
I can guarantee we didn't make the payments to them if we, in doing it my way, but this way he can bring it back to folks, which I don't mind a bit, but, I just don't think the Z payments on it is what the city needs to pay.
So.
When the state's holding our money.
And I guess since we're talking about it, this might be a good time for me to kind of clarify to myself, with your help, Mario, the difference in Cat Z and what generally goes to Atkins. I mean, is all of Atkins funds or charges
No.
Cat Z?
No.
Only the 5%?
Only, the 5% is unique, and it's management cost. When you look at the category A, those have costs that are outside of the Cap Z that do get paid for, and that's what that $1.37 million is on the spreadsheet that you got.
And the only thing that we're talking about with the thing before us is paying that Cat Z, not the other stuff. We're gonna pay that stuff anyhow.
The other stuff we have funds for that are being reimbursed in a reasonable fashion. So I'll be making a payment in the next couple weeks to the tune of approximately $1 million to KK Storm for NRCS, and then that money will come in arrears to the tune of 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Still a motion on the floor, so, if I want a second.
Would you table the motion till next time?
That'd be fine.
That way, give everybody time to digest it, learn more about it, and know what we're actually doing.
Okay? Any other comments on
On Thursday.
this topic? city attorney report?
Nothing today, sir.
Nothing today, all right. Mr. Administrator?
The Mexico Beach Artificial Reef Association put out another grant opportunity for $120,000 worth of, artificial reef. The same company that has gone after it each time was a successful response that is consistent with Fish and Wildlife. We end up signing it because all the monies go through us. We don't come out of pocket anything other than the little bit of work that we do to help process it. The state will come up with $60,000. Mexico Beach Artificial Reef Association will come up with $60,000. We'll payroll it, we'll get paid back. If the council is okay with that, we'd like to sign that contract and push it forward.
We've done this for years and years and years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why we've been doing that and never had any issues before, and they've always handled it. And I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Everybody good? All right, city council comments? Oh, excuse me. Is that the only one you had?
Yes, sir.
I thought you said, okay. Council comments? Anyone?
I would, since you kind of skipped the sidewalk update thing, I don't like the way it went down, that it was determined that they didn't get the pavers so readily. And I just feel, I mean, there's 19 people in there that paid extra money to do pavers. I think they should have got their pavers. I'm in the paver business, and I bid it 3 times. I didn't want it after the first time. I would have done it, but it was a difficult job. I didn't expect to do it anyhow. So I just think that it was done wrong, to make a determination before those people were contacted or anything. All that stuff got done after the fact, and I'm just making protest about it, for those people's sake. That's all I have to say about it.
Any other comments?
Well, I don't, is that, I mean, what that Bobby said a while ago, what's that gonna do with the rest of the condos that has the pavers?
Well, they were the only ones, but it doesn't matter. To me, it's kind of like an insurance company saying, well, I insured a Cadillac for you, but now that it's destroyed, I'm gonna furnish you with a Volkswagen. So I just don't, I think whoever made the decision overstepped their boundaries and their position to take it upon themselves to say, well, we're not gonna do that, we don't care what you had, here's what you're gonna get. And then those people's money that they paid for pavers is going down the road to fix sidewalks somewhere. So I don't think it was done right, and I can't imagine anybody being happy. I mean, if there was pavers in front of my house, and I got told that I couldn't put pavers back, because for no reason other than somebody said, we're not doing it, then I'd be upset. Or any other thing on my house that got done. And I think we as a city would not be happy if somebody told us that we couldn't put back a building like we had it, or anything else like we had it. So that's just my protest. And I'm not trying to, I don't wanna be mean about it. You know, 40 minutes meetings I wanna hear about it. I just, we're put here to look after the people, and I think we let them down there. That's it for me.
Anybody else? Motion for adjournment?
First off, I'm glad to be back. But I had a virus, everybody knows it, and, we got a antibiotic infusion, and it really worked on us. I really feel good about it, and, anybody that has any doubts, that they need to go and get checked. So, that's me.
Glad it worked.
Move to adjourn.
There you go. Thank everyone